Welcome to Bryer Showcase. I'm Bryer Cisneros, and it's time to do another ranking video. But before I do that, let me just showcase the new stuff I got. So the setup has upgraded once again. So I recently got a new computer. So if you're seeing lights back there, that's from the computer, which is pretty cool. And now I have two monitors now, which is very handy. And as you can see, the images you're seeing is the topic of today's video. But before I introduce them, let me give you some backstory. So I originally planned to do a Rush ranking video, but that's taken me a lot longer than I thought it would be because for two reasons. One, because of time, and two, I'm still trying to listen to a lot of the later stuff, so the 90s onward. So I thought, probably the best way to pass the time is to rank the discography of a band that influenced Rush a lot in the 80s. And that, of course, is The Police, only consisting of three members, and that is, of course, bassist, vocalist, and songwriter Sting, guitarist Andy Summers, and drummer Stuart Copeland. They weren't around for very long, but in the span of 1978 to 1983, they only released 3 albums, but in that time, they released lots of hits, some very good hit songs, and some pretty good albums along the way as well. And again, like I said, they only released 5 albums, but in my opinion, they didn't release any bad album because since they weren't around for very long, they didn't really have the time to really make a terrible one. So that was pretty easy for me. For the most part, I think this was probably the easiest discography to rank because they're all pretty consistent, and I kind of already knew the order I was going to go in, aside from maybe my top 2. And just before the video starts, just remember that these are my opinion. Make sure you comment below how you would rank them, and while you're at it, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. So now let's get started. So coming in at number 5, I'm gonna go with Zenyatta Mondata, and I must admit that's another one of those albums I just cannot remember how to pronounce it. I need to read it. But anyway, so yeah, going with this one for number 5. This is of course their 3rd album from 1981, I believe. Let me just give you my favorite songs on here. So of course it has the hits, Don't Stand So Close to Me, and the do the da, of course. And I will admit that in terms for the Police, I will say I'm definitely one of those people where I do think the hits are their best songs. Not to put anything down on their deeper cuts, because there are some good deep cuts on their albums. But when I usually listen to Police, I usually go for the hits most of the time. Again, that's just me. But yeah, but anyway, but like I said, there's still some good deep cuts on this particular album. Like Driven to Tears is pretty good. Canary in a Coal Mine is nice. Man in a Suitcase. But again, the only downside of this particular album is that there's a lot of songs where they're not very memorable to me. I think I'll listen to them and then I'll be like, okay, I do like this song, but then once the album's over, I already forgot what they sounded like. But again, the hits are great, but it's just the deep cuts aren't as strong or as memorable. And I will say the other sin on this album is that it has Behind My Camel, which beat YYZ in the Grammys for Best Instrumental Rock Song, just proving that how much the Grammys suck. Alright, moving on. Now coming at number 4, and this might be my most controversial pick, I'm going to go with Regatta de Blanc from 1979. Okay, so I know many people cite this as their best, and I know a lot of people really love this album, but for me personally, it's just not an album I gravitate to that often. Again, the hits, fantastic. Message in a Bottle and Walking on the Moon, of course, great songs on here. Other songs I do like, It's Alright For You is pretty good. Contact, Does Anyone Stare? Those are great songs as well. But again, some of the songs aren't as memorable. On Any Other Day is kind of a weird song because you have Sting and Stewart kind of duetting on a song, and I don't think their voices mesh that well. I get it's supposed to be kind of like a jokey song, I think, but I don't know, it's just not one of my favorite songs on here. And kind of the same thing with the last one I talked about. Some of these songs aren't as memorable to me, and this is when they really went into the reggae sound, which, you know, I don't mind, but again, it's not a sound I want to go after very often. So with that being said, Regatta de Blanc is number 4 for me, but I totally get why people love this album. So that's my number 4. For number 3, I'm going to go with their final album, which of course is Synchronicity, released in 1983. Again, it's another one of those albums where many people cite this as their best, at least top 2. But it's number 3 for me, but before you get your pitchforks, just so you know, again, there's a ton of hit songs on here, like so many good songs on here. Of course, Synchronicity 1 and 2, of course, has the big hit Every Breath You Take, which was playing behind me, but now it's not. But anyway, you have King of Pain, Wrapped Around Your Finger, all those songs, very great. And there's one deep cut that I really do like, which is Murder by Numbers, which is a nice little jazzy tune, which sounds really good. But the one thing that really drags it down for me are some of the remaining songs I did not talk about, like Walking in Your Footsteps. You know, it's it's alright. It kind of has a more tropical world sound to it, which is kind of cool. Oh My God, it's so forgettable. Mother, which is just the weirdest song on here, probably the weirdest song in the whole discography. I have no clue what they were thinking of. Miss Grand Gecko, I have, again, another song I don't remember. Tea in the Sahara, again, not very memorable. So I'd say half the song is just amazing, and the other half is kind of like, give or take. Again, I totally get why people cite this as the best. I mean, the hits are stellar, but it's number 3 for me. Is, again, in terms of a whole album, it's not really one I reach for all that often, but compared to the other 2 I talked about, I do reach for this one just a bit more than those. Coming in at number 2, I'm gonna go with their 4th album, Ghost of the Machine. Now, this and my number 1 were kind of battling which one would be the top pick, because for a brief time, I thought this was going to be my number 1, but after another listen, I kind of rethought and okay, it's number 2, but just by a hair. But yeah, I love this album. This is probably their most underrated album, I must say. Not only does it have my favorite Police song, which of course is Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. It's just a terrific song. I just love how it starts with the hi-hat and also the little keyboard piano riff that plays. It's so good, and it's just a catchy tune as well. But besides that, it has some other great songs in here, like Spirits in the Material World, Invisible Sun, Demolition Man, Too Much Information, Omega Man, Secret Journey, Darkness, which is such an underrated song. I love that. I love the closing song on this one. But yeah, it's not when people talk about the Police, I don't really hear this album get brought up a whole lot. It's usually somewhere kind of in the middle or on the other half on the lesser half of it. But to me, this is definitely top Police. This is one I reach for a lot. So with all that said, this is why Ghost of the Machine is my number 2. And finally, for number 1, I'm going to go with their debut album, Outlands de Amor, released in 1978. Again, this to me is the perfect blend of not just the reggae, but also the more rock and also the more poppy aspects of their sound. Just starts off with Next to You, which is just a great opening. Just starts with that great drum beat by Stuart Copeland. Just what a great drummer he is. And then it goes to So Lonely, which is, again, kind of getting to that reggae influence a bit, but still has a bit of a rock sound, and probably has one of my favorite Andy Summer guitar solos in this catalog. So good. Then it goes to Roxanne, which is not just the reggae, but also very poppy as well and very catchy. I mean, you hear it a lot on classic rock radio. It's great. Hole in My Heart's a good number. It's kind of a more mellow song, but still very upbeat. Peanuts is great as well. Then it goes to Can't Stand Losing You, which is another big hit off here. Is really good. Very controversial for the time, especially the cover of it. I'll probably show a picture of it. Truth Hits Everybody, Born in the 50s is great. Be My Girl Sally, and Masoko Tanga. Got some of these names I have a hard time pronunciation, but that doesn't change the fact that this is a great album. Again, it's their most rawest form, and that's kind of why I like it so much. So my number one is Outlands de Amor, released in 1978. And that wraps it up. Again, very short discography, so probably not a long video, but I hope you enjoyed this regardless. Again, in the comments below, let me know how you would rank these albums from your least favorites to your absolute favorites. And while you're at it, again, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more. So we're almost to 50 subscribers. Again, the goal is to get to 100 by the end of the year, so hopefully we can get there and maybe even get more along the way. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and goodbye for now.
Yes, that would be good, wouldn't it? That would be great.
Let's go.
That's that.
Okay, in the cars, let's get out of here.